Hey, how are you doing? It's Alan here from Looking for Warriors, and I want to talk about Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins is a really interesting guy. He's an American guy, used to be in a band called Black Flag, but basically he's done everything. There's nothing that he hasn't done. He's gone to North Korea, he does speaking, he was in a band, he does everything, movies, whatever. He can turn his hand to absolutely anything. But the interesting thing about Henry Rollins is he works, he really works. He lives on his own. Now, I couldn't do this, but he lives on his own. As far as I can see, he's not really in relationships, and he works 10, 12 hours every single day, non-stop, including the weekends. Now, I like to work and I like to get things done, but I don't think I could work on that level. And I just listened to him today. He was on YouTube and he said this really interesting thing. He got asked a question in a interview. Henry, do you prefer to live in the past or in the future? Now, before I answer this, we all know that the past and the future doesn't actually exist. The only thing that really exists is the present moment. But when he was asked this question, his answer was really interesting. He said the future. Without thinking for 1 second, he said the future. Because the past holds all of your pain and humiliations. I think a lot of people can identify with that. And I can identify with that. Now, we've all had amazing things happen to us in the past. We've all had incredible things. The birth of our children, a marriage, relationships gone really well. Great business, great work, great money goals being achieved. We've all had that in the past. But when we think back to the past, when you're going to bed, before you go to bed at night, you think back to the past. Are you thinking about those moments? Are you thinking about the pain and humiliations which we've all had as well? We've all had pain and humiliations. And if you haven't had pain and humiliations, then you aren't living. You're not taking any chances. You're not doing anything in your life. So if you have had pain and humiliation and problems and huge medical issues or huge financial issues or things that seemed insurmountable, good, because you're living your life. You're living your life and you're still here. You overcame it. One of the closest people to me has had huge medical issues, and it knocked him for 6, but he's still here. And I was talking to him yesterday. I was like, to see you, life is trying to knock you down, and you just keep getting back up again. You're like a brick wall, you can't be kept down. And not to say that the issues that he had hasn't hurt him. It certainly has been difficult. But he couldn't be kept down. And I think that's probably the same with you. And if you're watching this, we've all been knocked, and we get knocked, but you're still standing and you're ready for the next thing. So listen to Henry Rollins when he says, I don't live in the past. I don't even think about the past, because the past contains all the pain and humiliations. And maybe your whole life, maybe your whole past hasn't been pain and humiliation. But I'm willing to bet that when you're thinking of the past, that's the pain and humiliations you're thinking of. It's the girl that kind of turned you down, or the job you didn't get, or the medical issues you had, or the big financial issue you had, whatever it happened to be. That's what you're thinking about. It's not the amazing things I can imagine. But the great thing about the future is, and he's right about the future holds possibilities, is what he's saying. The future holds all the amazing possibilities of the future. And that's the thing about the future, we create it. The future doesn't exist right now. The future doesn't exist as a thing because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. When we think about the future, we're always thinking about the future in the present moment. But we can think about the future and with the pain of we can think about the future, and with the power of our imagination, we can create absolutely anything in the future, absolutely anything. And a lot of people will say, if we think about it, we manifest in the future. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true. Although, when I listen to people like George George Best is a footballer, and he used to talk about he's one of the best footballers in the world. Now that's debatable. If you're a footballing person, maybe you can debate with me on that, but he was a great footballer. And when he was given an interview, obviously he became an alcoholic later in life, and it was a bit sad, but when he was given an interview about when he was a great footballer, he would say that constantly he'd be thinking about the next football match, and he'd be seeing how he went around the next player, got around 3 or 4 players and got a goal in every match, and he was able to do it in the match. He'd be thinking about it, and he was able to do it. Now, I could think about that as well. I could think about that tonight, about me getting through around 5 or 6 players and getting a goal, playing for, I think he played for Northern Ireland, yeah, or Manchester United or something like that. And I could imagine that. Number one, I'm still not going to get on the team, no matter how many times I think about that. And number two, I probably can't do it, because there's a thing called muscle memory, and practice is important as well. So I'm not saying that you just think about anything in the future and it's going to happen. I'm not saying that. But pre-programming your mind for the good things that are going to happen in the future is definitely a very, very useful thing. Even if George Best had the muscle memory, he knew when someone ran towards him, he knew how to get around that person from muscle memory. But he also said that he thought about the next match always before it happened. And he saw himself, he visualized himself, completely seeing himself going around other players. He knew which players he was going to play against, and knew exactly how he was going to get around them before the match. So that did help too. So as Henry Rollins says, the future holds possibility. Now, that doesn't mean you can do anything. You've also got to build up who you are. You've got to build up your fitness level, your skill stack. Your skill stack is so, so important. Having a good, useful skill stack is going to help you. But also thinking about the future and pre-programming your mind for the future is absolutely vital. Doesn't mean you can go out and play for Manchester United if you have never played football before, or if you're not a very good footballer like me. But it certainly does mean that whatever field you're in, whatever you love, whatever you do, you can do much, much better if you pre-program your future. If you think about it. Instead, at nighttime when you go to bed, in the shower when you're thinking, whenever you're on your own, whenever you're off your phone, which is another problem today, but when you're thinking about, instead of pulling the past in, like Henry Rollins says, that contains all of your fears, all of your humiliations, all of your pain, why not pull in the future, which contains all of the amazing possibilities, all the connections that you can have with your family and your friends and people you love, all of the money that you can pull in, all of the great experiences. Maybe you don't like money, maybe you just want to travel, maybe you want to have great experience, maybe you just like people and you want to have incredible human connection with people. It doesn't matter. But instead of thinking of the past, just like Henry Rollins says, and maybe if I do that more, maybe if I work on that, I'll do those 10-hour days every day of the week. Although that's not for me. That's not for me. That's not what I want to do. I probably do work too much as it is, but also I do still like to have those connections with my family. It wouldn't work for me to have just work, even though it does work for him, because we're all different. And, you know, I still need to have those connections with my family, those connections with people and experiences too. And there are times when, yeah, I need to work 7 days a week, but there's also times when I don't. So when you're thinking, don't let those fears and humiliations in the past come in, because that's what naturally comes in. That's what naturally comes in if we're not focusing our thinking, using our thinking for ourselves. And I'm saying this to me as much as I'm saying it on YouTube to anyone else. I'm saying it to me. I'm saying control your mind more. And this is, meditation helps with this, because part of meditation, depending on what type of meditation you're doing, but one type of meditation would be to lie in the bed and to notice your thoughts. Not go sleep, but notice your thoughts, and notice that there's thoughts coming into your head that you have no control over. You'll have one thought and another thought and another thought just comes into your head, and you don't try to get rid of those thoughts, but you allow the thoughts to come, recognize they're there, And as you recognize they're there, they fall away. And that's the start of getting control back over your own mind. But the next step is to see the future. See your future. Just like Georgie Best did. Just like George Best did. He became almost too good at football. Almost too ridiculously good. Whereas maybe he became an alcoholic because there was nothing else for him to achieve in the football area. Because he'd become so actual good. And so maybe we could be like George Best. Not the second part. Not the alcoholic part. But the part where he was able to control his mind. And he was able to think about the future. And see the future. And see... He saw himself going around players and getting goals. But we can see ourselves getting goals in the areas that we want to get goals in, whether it's exams, whether it's financial, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whatever it happens to be. See ourselves getting those goals in the future and get control back over our minds. And you know, part of that also is putting down the phone and putting down Facebook and Instagram for a little while. And after watch my videos first, because I want the views. But after that, put down the phone and get control back over your own mind. It's so important. So listen to Henry Rollins, and I will link to the interview under this video. This has been Alan here from Look for Warriors, talking about controlling your own and creating your own future.